citizens of the world. Due to recent discovery of the MyID being implemented in East Palestine exactly 1 week before a Norfolk Southern freight train carrying noxious, cancer-causing chemicals derailed and subsequently exploded in a controlled release, residents of East Palestine, Ohio, we have been prompted to tell you that the train derailment and subsequent burning of toxins were no accident. Far too many coincidences are now showing up, and this one is facts that do put a target for the collective in knowing the United States government has now poisoned its own citizens to use as test subjects, and this is a major crime against humanity. We are anonymous. The citizens of East Palestine were told to sign up for a MyID tracking device from the local fire department. Their media has ignored this or covered it up or has not investigated anything in this so-called accident. We have. And it shows an announcement from the East Palestine Fire Department explained that MyID provides an easy method to provide valuable medical information to first responders in the event of an emergency. We have even uncovered local news 4 months ago speaking about this MyID. And it said rollout is scheduled to begin in November 2022. The base service will be free to residents of East Palestine as an added service of the fire department. Bob Moore, a local 70-year-old farmer and longtime East Palestine resident, told the independent media that he ignored local news reports prior to the disaster, urging residents like himself to sign up for MyID, allowing them to receive a biometric tracking device capable of relaying updates to first responders about their health conditions amid an emergency or major disaster not unlike the one that occurred in real life a week later.
Columbiana County coverage now, and East Palestine is known as the place to be. It's way ahead of the curve on a program to provide better treatment for anyone in the event of an emergency. I learned how it works and how it can help everyone in East Palestine.
MyID provides quick medical information for emergency responders. Darlene Chapman is the outreach coordinator for this project, and she's an EMT.
If they're in a situation where they can't tell us or they don't have any family around, this is something that would make my life easier.
MyID works by taking a camera phone and pointing it at a QR code. It provides valuable medical information such as allergies, breathing difficulties, or other conditions, so you get proper treatment and care.
If anybody sees the QR code, you'll be able to scan this and get the information. So it helps that person, not necessarily just here, but anywhere in the nation.
There are a few options for MyID: a bracelet, key fob, necklace, or attachment on your watch band. You can choose the one which fits your lifestyle best. That's up to you. Orders will start in January.
To make things worse, CDC alters their webpage days after East Palestine train derailment to make vinyl chloride look less toxic. Archives of the CDC webpage show that for the first time in 9 years, the agency edited toxicity information on vinyl chloride just days after Ohio train derailment. But HHS and the EPA are in on it too. Reports are circulating on Twitter with claims the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, changed its guidelines on vinyl chloride days before the toxic release of chemicals in East Palestine, Ohio. But the reality is that the CDC was not the only agency involved, and the timing of the changes is in question. The Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and CDC worked together in a coordinated effort to alter vinyl chloride's toxicity guidelines shortly before and after the train derailment in Ohio that released 1.1 million pounds of toxic chemicals into the air, soil and water to make the chemical look less harmful. In addition, just 3 months ago, East Palestine adopted a pilot program to respond to emergency events where digital IDs were given to residents to track long-term health problems like difficulty breathing. Timeline 1. HHS and the CDC, in coordination with the EPA, publish an update to the vinyl chloride toxicity profile in January 2023 for the first time in 17 years. 2. Digital IDs on January 26 are rolled out to East Palestine and a nearby township. 3. train derails on February 3 in East Palestine, Ohio, and £1 million of highly toxic and potentially lethal vinyl chloride are released into the environment. 4. CDC alters its web page on or around February 6, 2023, on vinyl chloride, omitting key sections on toxicity. This web page had not been reviewed for 9 years. 5. Health and environmental officials deem the area safe. 6. Lawsuits are filed. HHS, in January 2023, published a 293-page document called Toxicological Profile of Vinyl Chloride, which was prepared in accordance with guidelines developed by the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, and the EPA. The original guidelines on vinyl chloride were published in the Federal Register in August 1989 and were, prior to January 2023, most recently updated in 2006. So for 17 years, the toxicological profile of vinyl chloride had not been altered. According to HHS, the peer-reviewed toxicological profile of vinyl chloride succinctly characterizes its toxicologic and adverse health effects, and identifies available toxicological information, epidemiologic evaluations and the level of exposure that presents a significant risk to human health. Toxicological guidelines are published by the CDC under the auspices of HHS and drafted in coordination with the EPA. The CDC's FAQ web page for vinyl chloride was recently modified as well. An archived version captured 3 days after the East Palestine train derailment shows a longer, more detailed FAQ section on vinyl chloride that included a section on the dangers of the chemical in children, recommendations made by the federal government to protect human health and a lower level of lethal exposure. A current version of the same web page omits this information, expands the level of human exposure, meaning you can suddenly be exposed to more of a highly toxic substance before you experience detrimental effects, and includes a laughable new section on how to protect yourself and your family from vinyl chloride. Here is a screenshot of the February 6, 2023, archived version of the CDC's FAQ webpage on vinyl chloride, captured 3 days after the East Palestine train derailment. Notice on the right-hand side of the page it includes the sections "How can vinyl chloride affect children?" and "Has the federal government made recommendations to protect human health?" When you select "How can vinyl chloride affect children?", you get the following now deleted information. Here is the CDC's current web page at their same URL, showing the sections on the hazardous effects of vinyl chloride in children, and federal government recommendations have been deleted. Here's the archived web page version of the now deleted section. Has the federal government made recommendations to protect human health? Note this section states that the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, has set a limit of 1 part vinyl chloride per 1 million parts of air, 1 part per million, in the workplace. Here is the current version of the same web page where the section is entirely removed. Inserted instead are the CDC's ridiculous recommendations for protecting yourself from toxic vinyl chloride, namely, avoiding tobacco smoke. At the bottom of the archived February 6, 2023, CDC webpage, it says the agency last reviewed this page on August 28, 2014. This is classic CDC behavior. For 9 years, nobody touched this page. As soon as people started pointing out how toxic vinyl chloride is, began reporting health effects, and the real media picked it up, the CDC snuck in to review the page to remove incriminating information. Sound familiar? According to the National Cancer Institute, vinyl chloride is a gas used to make polyvinyl chloride, PVC, hard plastic resin in plastic products, and is associated with an increased risk of cancer. The gas is highly toxic and even lethal if inhaled. According to HHS, vinyl chloride is a known human carcinogen. The EPA classifies vinyl chloride as a human carcinogen when inhaled, yet claimed the air in East Palestine was safe to breathe just days after the incident, and water with visible chemical toxicity was safe.
Mother of 5 boys, and I have a 1, a 2-year-old, and a 10-year-old still at home with me. They're breaking out with rashes. I'm taking them to the doctors. They're telling me we can't diagnose them with chemical burns of the lungs because almost after 3 weeks, they're still waiting on guidance from the Ohio Department of Health. How long is it going to take? Are one of my children going to have to drop dead before they get guidance?
It's been 3 weeks now since the toxic train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, as you know. The mayor says he saw you in Ukraine, and he says it tells you he doesn't care about us. And they're asking, is the president coming to Ohio? Do you have any plan to travel to Ohio, and have you talked with the mayor yet?
Let's put this in perspective. Within 2 hours, the EPA was in there. Within 2 hours.
They are only helping Norfolk clean up the mess that they refused to clean up. They threw dirt over it, laid those tracks down, and got them trains rolling.
Within 2 hours. 2 hours.
And even as we're doing this, another Norfolk Southern train rolling through town.
Profit before people. We are in the same boat today as we were the first day they lifted that evacuation. Nothing has changed, except everybody's getting sicker and sicker.
Do you plan to travel there, and have you talked with the mayor?
I can't recall that. I don't think I've talked to the mayor. I talked to everyone else there, and multiple times. Both governors, I've talked to everyone there is to talk to.
They've not only ruined my home, my health of my children, they have ripped my life away from me.
With those air sirens, those air raid sirens overhead at Kyiv, how important was it that the world saw you standing next to President Zelensky?
It was important to me to stand with Zelensky and let the world know on the year anniversary we're not walking away from Ukraine.
They aren't helping the people of this town. They aren't providing us housing elsewhere. And people, everybody says, if you're getting sick, why are you staying there? Because we don't have the means to leave. I can't afford my mortgage and another house payment or to stay in a hotel room.
As if this story didn't have enough twists already, it was recently revealed that days before the incident, the Morning Journal reported the East Palestine Fire Department was hosting a sign-up event for a service called My ID, targeting both East Palestine and a nearby township. Robert Runyon, a councilman, said he hoped people in the community would take advantage of the new service. My ID is a program that helps first responders aid victims more effectively and efficiently, Runyon said. The My ID company claims to be a comprehensive medical ID solution that provides an easy way to access, store and manage your health information through bracelets, tags, stickers, and wallet cards with a QR code that can be scanned to access your online health information in a few seconds. The My ID app displays your diagnosis, personal information, emergency contacts, allergies, medications and medical providers. How ironic. According to WKBN 27 News, the My ID plan was months in the making. In October 2022, it ran an advertorial of the My ID rollout in East Palestine. Here is the introductory paragraph. East Palestine is known as the place to be. It's way ahead of the curve on a program to provide better treatment for anyone in the event of an emergency. We learned how it works and how it could help everyone in East Palestine. In a follow-up January 26 article published by WKBN 27, East Palestine Fire Chief Keith Drabick stated, "We're not doing this to gain anybody's information, to try and steal anybody's information. We're doing this to help the public in medical emergencies." Drabick continued, "Anybody that's skeptical, please come on down. Sit down, and talk to us. We'll be happy to show you everything that goes on with it. We'll be happy to show you how secure it is." Interesting how the fire department, which people typically have great trust in, was used to promote this invasive digital ID system. Regardless of the timeline of events, their CDC's manipulation of its webpage is highly suspicious. The agency either knew an event like this would happen or scrubbed its page after the fact to cover up a devastating environmental catastrophe and shield itself, HHS, the EPA and the train company from liability. What is clear is that the CDC is again lying to the American people to downplay the harmful and potentially lethal effects of vinyl chloride. This sounds eerily familiar. I do find it odd. I find it a coincidence that we are having coincidences pile up around here. Moore further speculated about the rise in disasters at food factories and egg farms on top of the train explosion and My ID rollout. He believes the biometric bracelets are possibly a way for the government to track people in the midst of a major disaster. The fact that the program exists indicates that somebody somewhere knows something and wants to get data, he said. Every piece of data that the government collects, the DARPA, large corporations, and multinational corporations collect, can always be turned against the citizen. Everything is vulnerable to weaponization, and the most sacred thing in any weaponizing is data. This will not be tolerated by the off-circuit security teams. Judgments will come without sympathy. We are anonymous. We are legion. Expect us.